Welcome, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Lynn Berger, host of Lynn Berger Interviews Remarkable People. And today I have the privilege of speaking with Arlene Goldsmith, Executive Director at New Alternatives for Children. Dr. Goldsmith has led NAC since its inception in 1982, from an initial staff of 5 to over 400 today. Arlene, thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure, really.
Okay, you have quite an impressive career, and we're going to go through it and what you're doing today and all the contributions you've made to the world from the work you do.
I love what I do.
I can see that. Yes, it shines through. So when you were younger, did you know what you wanted to do?
I want to be an actress or a journalist. I have a little
really?
book. And actually, I do a lot of acting when I'm in the work that I'm in, and not really acting, but kind of talking a little bit about things that are important to me and give me opportunity to talk with kids and families, and not so much acting, but actually speaking. And journalists, I'm writing all the time.
Okay, so take us back to your earlier years. You can even start with your studies and how you got into the work you're doing now.
Right, so I began actually in college. I went to Brandeis University and I graduated in 1959, and then I went immediately on a scholarship, which was really wonderful, to Columbia University School of Social Work, and then eventually I received a doctorate, a PhD from Fordham University.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about that time period, because where did you start working and where did you progress to?
So, excuse me, I began working right after my degree in social work in a foster care agency, because I had a scholarship there as well. I had a scholarship from Columbia and from from Columbia, and the work that I did helped me to go on to look at my career. My placements, one was in a psychoanalytic kind of placement, learning about children, families with very seriously ill children and families. And then I went to Jewish Child Care Association, where I was for about 3.5 years in the intake unit and worked in foster care. My placement was also in foster care prior to that, so I knew a little bit about what it means to raise children in outside placement, in outside homes.
Okay, and then how was it for your studies? You went back for your doctorate. How did you manage all that?
That was not easy when I started. I started actually in 1981, and at the same time I was hired to start the agency, and also I had 13-year-old twins who were being bar and bat mitzvah. It was not an easy year, and I had no resources, no money really to start the agency except maybe $25,000, and I had to go to a bank and try to get a bank account for the agency for a nonprofit, and we didn't have a lot of things we needed, but somehow I found somebody, elderly person on 57th Street and 5th Avenue at Chase, and we got our first account called the NAC Special Account, and we still have that account to this day, all those years later, over 40 years later.
So how did the agency start?
So in 1981, when I was actually hired, there were children growing up in hospitals beyond medical need, and nobody was interested in looking at the kind of kids that I found, which were children with special medical needs, children that were disabled, had disabilities, children who had medical complexity, children who had autism, and everybody was looking at little babies there was a crack epidemic, and that's who they were actually looking on. But the reason that I began that is I was already at Fordham and doing my studies, and somebody asked me, would you be interested in applying for a job as executive director of an agency that is just being founded? And I thought, are you crazy? You can't go do something like that because you're in school and you've got still have young children going into adolescence, which was another issue. But somehow my husband said to me, just go for the interview. And when I went to the interview, I had also, prior to that, I had worked 5 years at Willowbrook, and this was about deinstitutionalization of children living in hospitals. And I had worked at Willowbrook helping the deinstitutionalization of about 6,500 children and families out of Willowbrook, which was a very, very significant and difficult job. And I knew a lot about what it takes for a child to leave a hospital or a person to leave a hospital after they've been in that hospital for a very, very long time. So I went for the interview at Mount Sinai Hospital for 3 people. One of them worked at Mount Sinai. She was an executive director of some piece of Mount Sinai, and 2 were philanthropists. The people in the city to get where I would get my contract, said these children weren't growing up in hospitals, and we went to many hospitals in New York City. We had a pediatrician and me, and we called everybody and said, are there children living here beyond medical need? And we found that children were living 5 years. And that's what we found, and we began to form the idea of trying to figure out how you would do an agency that would take care of these children. And one of the things in graduate school that I was able to do for my PhD was kind of diagram what I thought was important. And what was important was that you had to treat the whole family, not just the child, and you had to place the child in the middle of the family, and then surround it with all kinds of different services. So right now, from this little tiny agency, we have 50 programs that help these children to get to where they need to be.
Wow, you do a lot, and you do, I mean, the work is remarkable, and the impact you have. And I know that you've been a mentor, and you've supported so many children throughout the years and changed their lives in such significant ways. Could you share like a story or two?
Sure. So I think I ought to just say a little bit about what the agency does, because we take a child out of a hospital and then we work in a team, a big team, to make sure that these children get everything that they need. Children with disabilities particularly are, there's such a host of problems. Somebody can have a medical issue that takes 5 supporters outside of our agency, outside of NAC, to help them. They have subspecialists. They can have an orthopedist. They can have older kids can have gynecology. They can have all kinds of. We have right now at agency a child waiting for a heart transplant. So we have that kind of thing going on. We've had a couple of transplants, and they've been unbelievably fantastic. So we formed the agency with a core, the family and the child together, and then surround them with all the support services that they need, and we continue to do that on a regular basis. So a child comes in with and a family with a certain dosage. You may not need a mental health. We have a full-time psychiatrist with a whole team of mental health providers. We have a full-time developmental pediatrician. We have a large program, 15 people with education who do educational things. And so somebody could come in and say, okay, the mother needs mental health services, the child needs the pediatrician, the father needs something. So they all work together, and we try to do that to keep these families together and give them the services that they really need. So I'll give you a case. Here's an example. We get referrals for foster care only from Administration for Children's Services. That's how kids have to come through, and ACS. So ACS called me and said, we have a young woman who spent in another agency, in a foster care place, and then she was first in the hospital 5 years, then she went to foster care, then she went back in the hospital, and we need another foster home. And I said, wait a minute, has anybody talked to the mom? And I said, bring the mother in. The mother came in, and I said, you can do it with our support and our help. And she said, okay, I'm going to take her home. So she took her home and with the other kids, and we supported that family for many, many years to help her maintain the child at home, who's not a child anymore, but is grown up. And we offered her art therapy, psychiatry, medical services, whatever we needed. And then she really took to art therapy and she's a very good artist. Amazing what you can find, you know. Right. And then she got to high school. And she's very brilliant. And I said, what are you doing about school? And she said, I'm applying, but my guidance counselor told me that I might as well go to get an associate degree. And I said, no, you go back and tell him that it is 4 years. You're going to go to a 4-year college. And she did, and we had to get the SAT done, and he had to get set up, and he didn't do it. And finally, at the end, probably in December, you know how hard it is if you have your own kids, what it means to get prepared for the SAT or the ACT exam. And she was very nervous, and I called him and said, why didn't you do it? He said, I'll do it, and he finally did it, but he put her in a non-accessible school with 13 steps. And that young woman got there on time to take that SAT, which is so difficult, and was standing outside, and a janitor came and got a plank and put her on the wheelchair to bring her into the class. She was late. She took the exam. She did great. She got into Hunter College, and I went to the graduation. It was the most wonderful thing that, like my own kid was graduating. It was terrific. And she's an incredible person, very, very an advocate for herself, advocate for all kinds of people, people with disabilities. And then she went to graduate school. She graduated from Hunter and immediately went to graduate school in art therapy. And then she got her own apartment, which is like, that's what NAC helped her with that. Yes. We have children. We have one child in our video, if you get a chance to look at it, that was in a hospital 9 years, had a trach, had a wheelchair, and hardly spoke. And after 2 years with NAC, we got rid of the wheelchair, helped them get an apartment, got rid of the trach, and speaking now, and in place. And it's amazing to see what 2 years. And her sister, we also work with the whole family, so her sister's going to go to college. And she finally got an apartment that can, help this child move forward in life. It's amazing.
Well, it's amazing. And your commitment and compassion is incredible. Did you know you had this in you when you were younger?
I don't know, but I do know that what I want, for my children and my grandchildren is what I want for these kids and nothing less. Working with people and children with disabilities is an issue for me because we're not a civil society when it comes to children with disabilities. And I have some older kids. I have, although a lot of those children that I have worked with, the first bunch that we took out came from New York Family Hospital. They were there between 7 and 10 years, 7 and 9 years, 1 and 9 years. And we took those out very, very beginning, and they are in my alumni group. And one of them who uses a wheelchair, who has 2 children, I went to their wedding in Queens in the summer, and his wife has a disability, but they have a car. She drives the car, she's a nurse, and it's an amazing story to see what he does. And another young guy, he's a sit-down comedian. He graduated, was in college, and he is amazing what he has done. And I helped him to meet some lawyers that are disability rights lawyers, and because he was complaining that the store that he had to go into to get milk was not accessible. And the next place to get a bottle of milk was 10 blocks away, which he had to go in his wheelchair. So I hooked him up with these lawyers. He went in, he sued, and he won. So they started taking him all up. The guy built an accessible place, and he said, it's not only for me, but it's for women with strollers. They couldn't get in there either. And he's gone to restaurants and all over the place, and so we helped him with that. But, one time, by that time, he had made a significant amount of money, and he and another young man who was coming to my alumni group were outside in front of Starbucks, and he was the other gentleman who could walk, walked into the store to get it, and a woman came up to the boy in the wheelchair, the young man in the wheelchair, and she said to him, do you want $1? Meanwhile, he had so much money right now he made on these laws, and he looked and said, no, I don't need your money. How about a sandwich? And the assumption is made all the time that children with disabilities or people with disabilities, they're useless, or that when you talk to them, they don't understand you. They repeat things a few times to you. They ask questions that are really not great, inappropriate. That's the word. And I think that sometimes they look at people with disabilities as nothing, invisible. They don't see them. They don't see. One of the schools in New York City, for example, placed 2 of her kids. They were sisters, not biological, but they were both placed in the same home, one in a wheelchair, one with quad canes. And they make them sit at a table, and these girls both went to college, in a table with all children with marked disabilities. Who thinks of that? I mean, so that's what we taught them to advocate. They went to the principal and they took that away and they moved with their friends. So, and the reason was in a fire, but that's ridiculous because they're in the school anyway. So a lot of things, people don't think about that when you talk about children, even with children with medical complexity, the same thing.
Well, they are so fortunate to have you as their proponent, and the support system. It shows you what social support can do, right?
Exactly. We've had very, very good success. We've had over 500 adoptions of children with special medical needs, and almost none have ever been, have ever been,
Not worked out.
not worked out. Thank you. I was going to say dissolved because that's the word you use, but that is the truth. We have not had that, and we have a preventive service program with keep children with their families in their own home, and 98% of those children in our prevention program, these are very troubled families, have not got into the foster care system, which is what you want. Foster care is good. Very, very good, actually, to help families get themselves together with the idea that if you're in foster care, you either can go home to your birth family or get adopted. And that's what we do at NAC. We have a lot of adoptions, or we have an equal amount of adoptions and kids returning to the family.
You do?
Yeah. Yeah. It's impressive.
It's very impressive.
I think it's really important to think about teams and working with children and families with a team that provide a lot of these services, kind of wraparound, comprehensive interdisciplinary services that help these families get strong and help them to move forward in their lives. We have 2 aftercare programs, PIP and PLAN. One is post-adoption, one is post-prevention. Post-prevention, 50% of the women in that program, there are over 120, I think, families, are either working or in school, which is amazing. And they came from our prevention program where there has been, the kind of issues, beside the kind of issues that we have about the diseases. We have children with autism, with heart disease, with kidney disease, with sickle cell disease, those kind of things that are very difficult, to deal with. But also the children have been, 99% of people of color, children of color, there's been racism, there's been, amazing discrimination against children with disabilities. And also, I think the main problem for a lot of our kids is they don't know how to go about making a life. So we do things with older kids, resume writing, bank accounts. We're getting kids bank accounts. We're helping them. We have coaches. We have a very important program that's funded by the city and a private foundation it's called Fair Futures, which is great. They get a coach, and those coaches really help these kids with, kind of making them what a coach would do to help a child to achieve their dreams and their hopes. And school is one of them. Also being on time at a job, learning about the kind of things that are important as you move forward and
life
skills. Exactly.
Well, you must feel so proud of yourself every day for doing this work. And I want to get to that for a minute because you have a pretty full life.
Yeah.
How do you get all this done, especially when you were raising children?
Truthfully, I don't think I really know. I think one of the things that helped me have a very supportive husband. It was very, very hard, and 2 children, but I somehow managed in their school to be the class mother, to go up. The school was in up in the Bronx, and I went up there at night after work, and I picked them up. I did a lot, somehow, I don't know. I guess support and the fact that I had really great kids, and they were really good. They really helped along, the way, that they could. They were great, and I had some good help along the way, like my mother.
Well, with all that support, your job was very busy, and you didn't have a lot of spare time. No.
I did not have spare time, but we managed to do a lot of great things with the kids.
Okay. Now, moving ahead to giving younger people advice that want to go and work in the field that you have so much experience and knowledge of, what kinds of advice would you give them?
I do that a lot of times, all the time actually. People will come to me and say they want to be a social worker or they want to be this, what should I do? And I tell them a social work actually is a very good profession because you can do a lot of things. You can work at a hospital, you can work at education, you could work at a child welfare agency like NAC, you can even work in a corporation. And the skills are good. I know the differences in the schools. I can tell them a little bit about what school, if you want to do clinical work, maybe this school is good. If you want to do more administrative work, maybe that school is good. But also we work with our own children, at NAC, and we have people, we have staff who work with these kids to look at career patterns. We do interviewing, we give them mock interviews so that they can, how do you go into, and give them advice about that. And we have taken a lot of of the NAC kids to different places. We did something, when we did Fly Like a Girl, and we took all the young, about 8-10 girls to JetBlue. That was fabulous. And it's a great program, and some of them want to be pilots. They want to be, and that's wonderful. You don't particularly think of young children, especially children of color, getting into those kind of professions. We've taken them to law schools. We've taken them around to give them options to see whatever, and to companies. Google. We went. I think we did a lot. We do a lot of that to make sure that these kids have the opportunities also to go to a Yankee game or a Mets game, to be fair, either one. We do that as well, so that kids get opportunities that they can't really get for their families. We take kids to the theater, and we use volunteers to help us go along with the staff. Do a lot of things like that that make life better and give children the options to say, okay, you can do this. You can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be a plumber, you can be a cosmetician, That's the kind of thing, whatever is your skill. We have a lot of our kids want to be social workers.
That's
and
nice.
One of the young women that is another very long story, but became an orphan. Both her foster parents and her birth parents died, and she has a very serious medical condition, and she graduated from Hunter, and she just got accepted to Hunter into the social work program, and she's got a full-time job now. And I know her since she's about 15 years old, when she came into foster care at NAC, when both her parents had passed away. So it's like that kind of thing. I think partly why we've been successful is the one-to-one relationships that all of us have with the kids. Everybody cares so much about the children, and our foster parents, we really research who's going to be a good foster parent. We're always looking at the right. We always need foster parents, and we're looking for the right person who. And some people think they can't do it, and we have lawyers and doctors and people who are, stay at home, who are foster parents. And it's amazing the work that they do, and many of them adopt, and if they don't adopt, the child goes home, they take in other children coming in. So I think that's an important thing to think about. It's great opportunity to be a foster parent.
And a great need.
It's a great need,
and
exactly.
It's a perfect win-win when both parties are there.
Exactly. And we really screen our foster parents to make sure, that we don't have to move a child, because children are not like bags of potato. You can't move kids. If you move children too much, especially in early childhood, there's problems later on with them. Kind of like working with a kid, working with families, or adapting to other, to other children or families. Fix that.
No, I mean, you can go on forever with these stories. These are, it shows this isn't a job for you. This is a passion.
It's a big passion for me, and all of my children and grandchildren have participated in this agency, and board members the same way. I have a wonderful board. I have 38 board members, and those board members have also, their children have also volunteered in many different ways. And you need support of the board and the community to kind of do this kind of agency, because it's difficult, and we need to raise a significant amount of dollars.
Are there special programs you're instilling now that you're starting, initiating new programs, or?
At the moment, we have so many programs that we're trying to expand the programs that we already have, and not do anything new at the moment. But we do have a lot of programs that can use volunteers, and can use foster parents, and can use, substantial, funding. So we're working on that. Fundraising is very difficult right now, and we're doing a lot of that, trying to bring in additional money to support the programs we already have.
Well, it sounds like it's quite a enterprise you have there. Now, what about the volunteer situation? Tell us a little bit about what volunteers can do, and then we'll talk about how they can get in touch with you.
Okay, we have a large volunteer program, and during the pandemic, our volunteers really helped. They did videos on TV for kids. They read books to kids. 500 people read books to kids. Some famous players in sports read things to the children, and that's online. So during the pandemic, the kids saw that. So when we have a program, if we're going to go to the Yankees, we always need volunteers. We want to be very careful that there's somebody else besides staff we need more people to be watchful, make sure the kids don't get hurt or, get lost or anything like that. We have a lot of volunteer tutors. We can always use volunteer tutors. That's very important for us. We have a very large tutoring program for our kids. We want to get them to move forward. We had 20 kids graduate this year from high school, 2 from college. And we have lots of kids already from the past that are still in college finishing. And the 15 of the 20 kids are enrolled now in college, which is significant, which is really, really helpful. Look, not everybody has to go to college, but if you have the ability and want it, we help them go. And we have somebody that just got a very nice award, got into some very, very big program, which she will get a full scholarship to a college of her choice.
Wow.
So
well, I want
exciting.
you to share some
Sure.
contact information here for
Sure.
people, that how they can find out more about
Okay.
the agency, how
Fine.
they can volunteer, how they can become perhaps a foster parent.
Right.
So can you share the contact
Yes.
information?
You can call us at 212-696-1550 and just ask for somebody if you want to volunteer, if you want to be a foster parent. Just do that, 212-696-1550. And also our website is nackidscan.org, nackidscan.org, and we'll answer you.
Oh, thank you
Personally.
so much. And thank you so much. I
you.
mean, it's absolutely a pleasure to meet with you. I
Thank
knew
you.
you, but to meet and to
Right.
speak today about
Right.
what you do, I mean, I can't think of any greater work that an
Right.
individual can devote their life to than what you do, Arlene.
It's been a long time, and it's been worth every minute of it because our success has been incredible, really exceptional, and we're known, kind of like one of the leaders in child welfare for children with special medical needs and mental health needs. And I'm very proud of what we were able to accomplish. But you know what? I couldn't do it alone. I have an amazing staff and board, and I think that's really what you need. This is a team. It's a team.
Well, you are quite a remarkable woman, so thank you very
No,
much,
Thank you
Arlene.
for having me.
Thank you. Thank you again for watching this incredible interview with an incredible woman, Dr. Arlene Goldsmith, and learning about her work and all the achievements she's had over the years and how perhaps you might want to get involved in a terrific agency like this.